regulars and welcome new listeners to the Reese on the Regular podcast. I have Katie on here today and I'm so excited to chat with her.
I'm so excited to be here. My name is Katie. I'm a junior nursing major at UMass Amherst with Reese.
We met through UMass, but she's actually from around my town too, which is crazy. I'm just super excited to chat today.
I know. I've never done anything like this. I'm excited.
We're in a new year now and we're going to be talking about just taking on challenges, stepping out of your comfort zone, and just enjoying the risk. We have lots of questions prepared, so I think we're just going to jump into it. So to start, how has embracing discomfort personally changed your life?
It's always allowed me to have like new opportunities and has allowed me to be in a new environment that I've might have never experienced before. And I think it's also like shown me ways where I can like adapt to certain situations or like grow as a person depending on like the current situation and stuff like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, because I feel like going out of your comfort zone can really allow like new opportunities and new changes to like either experience or figure out who you are as a person.
And do you feel like more recently you started stepping out of your comfort zone, or is this something you've felt more comfortable with for a long time?
I would say within the past like year, my initial stepping out of my comfort zone was probably studying abroad last fall. And I feel like that was such a pivotal like time in my life to where I've never traveled alone. I've never been to Europe. Like I've never done anything like that. And it took some convincing for me to even like want to go. Like some of my friends had to really convince me, and I'm so thankful they did. And I'm so happy to have that opportunity. But I feel like I learned so much about myself and just about other cultures and the way like I like to spend my free time. Like being abroad, you have a lot of time kind of on your own. I feel like I figured out who I was and like what hobbies I like, and I got into journaling there. Like I have a journal and I journaled almost every single day while I was there, which I think is so cool to look back on.
That's awesome.
And I read a lot. Like there was a bunch of us, we always go to the park and like read. Like I got into reading, and I feel like ever since then it's kind of changed my mindset on like stepping out of my comfort zone, because it's just brought me so many good experiences.
Yeah, I feel like travel and study abroad is one of those experiences that like really is so life-changing for a lot of people. So that's really good to hear. I feel like something for me is that it's really allowed me to just like discover my strengths and weaknesses. Like if you don't step out of your comfort zone, you're not going to know, you know, your strengths or your weaknesses as well. I think both are like good things to learn, of course. It's just taught me a lot about like what I should put more of my time towards and what I should maybe step away from, what's not serving me. Do you feel like you agree with that as well?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It helps me figure out who I am and what I like and what I could work on more as a person too.
Yeah, I feel like I also gained a lot of confidence in just knowing what I'm able to succeed at, and it's just overall allowed me to personally grow a lot.
Yeah,
And
I feel like with confidence, it gave me a lot of sense of like independence too. Like I found like my own happiness within myself and like what made me happy and how like I can fill my own cup without having to like rely on other people to do that, which I feel like is a huge part in like growing up, like finding happiness and like being alone.
Right. And I feel like a lot of people who struggle with insecurities are really like closing the doors and not really going out and looking for new opportunities and trying to get out of their comfort zone. So I feel like that is such a big result of stepping out of your comfort zone is just gaining so much confidence in yourself and just what you can do.
Right.
So going abroad, I think it's so cool that you started reading and journaling and doing all this stuff, because I feel like everyone's so focused on like, oh, where am I going to go visit? But just doing like the personal things too. I think that's cool that you did that. And so how do you feel that stepping out of your comfort zone has allowed you to develop skills like that?
I mean, I really think it's given me the opportunity to kind of also like look in and look at myself. Like you said, everyone kind of focuses on studying abroad, like looking at what's next, but it also helped me like pause for a moment and like take in like what is around me and like take in my environment, and like journaling to really help me like look at my words and like look at how I'm feeling or look at my trips and experiences and like realizing like, oh, maybe I was out of my comfort zone, like doing that and like seeing how I reacted. I feel like as I was journaling, like emotions should come and you're like, oh, I didn't even realize I thought about it like that, which I think helped me kind of like have a whole picture of like how I was feeling throughout like all studying abroad.
I feel like a big reason why a lot of people don't step out of their comfort zone is because all of the misconceptions out there and just things that they've chosen to believe. And so have you had any misconceptions before, and what ended up being false in the end?
I feel like with stepping outside of your comfort zone, the first thing a lot of people think of is like the unknown, and like failure, I feel like comes up a lot. With the unknown also becomes like so many new opportunities and a lot of like personal development. And I feel like in order to like continue growing as a person, you really need to step outside of your comfort zone and really figure out like life is going to keep going. So you need to keep growing with it.
Mm-hmm. And fear of failure is a big one for sure. I feel like a misconception is like, oh, I'm going to embarrass myself. I'm not going to live up to someone's standards or my own standards. Are those like feelings that you felt before with it too?
Yeah, I feel like failure will always stick. Like no matter how confident or independent or like confident you feel in yourself, failure is always going to be in the back of your mind. In a way, I think it doesn't always have to be looked at as like negatively. Like it can also be like your motivation to either yourself or other people to not want to fail and continue to put in that effort at the motivation or drive to continue towards that goal to end up reaching it.
Right. And so can you think of like a specific time where you felt like so nervous about failing at something, but it ended up being like a really positive outcome?
I want to, without always saying studying abroad, I feel like that's my easy out. But with that one, it was really nerve-wracking for me to go somewhere by myself, like without my family. And obviously I was able to learn like so much from that and was able to like grow as a person and share all of my experiences with like people that I got really close with that I didn't know before I even went abroad.
A misconception I've definitely had when it comes to stepping out of my comfort zone is that it needs to be this like big change. But in reality, it's like you can take as many small steps towards that, you know, end goal as you want to. That's really the best way to go about it too. Like you don't want to just totally jump into it all at once. And so I feel like that's something that's definitely been a misconception before for me.
Yeah, I think taking smaller steps is such a great way to go about towards like a lifestyle change or a habit. Like if you try to change something drastically, it might not always stick. I feel like a big misconception is also having it so like public. Like I think a great way to go about like a change or stepping outside of your comfort zone is sometimes doing it alone. Like nobody needs to know the big changes you're doing, and if you're doing the small steps, like you can be your biggest cheerleader. You don't need the validation from other people. And I think that's also something that is a bigger change that I've had. Like I don't need to share my goals, and I can support myself and cheer for myself, and like I can see, because at the end of the day it's just you.
Exactly.
Like you're your biggest supporter. Sometimes keeping it to yourself or keeping it personal might be beneficial.
Yeah, I think that's such a good way to grow independently too. And I feel like just the most important thing when it comes to that is like remembering that not only do you not have to take a big leap all at once, you know, taking those small steps, but also trying not to have that misconception of, oh, this change is going to work instantly. Like it is a process. It's going to take time. And just being patient with yourself when you're working on it yourself and not having other people around you necessarily cheer you on. You really have to be, you know, your own cheerleader in those times. So with having that fear of failure, I know you said you've kind of experienced that before. Has that ever actually like prevented you from going after something and like resulted in any sort of regret for you?
I don't think I've ever not done something because of failure. The most recent one I can think of is like when it comes to running, I did it a lot in high school, and like now a goal of mine is like complete a marathon. And lately I think I've been coming up with a lot of excuses on why like the timing's not right or I can't do it right now. But I think part of it might be a fear of failure and not being able to do it. I've first started by doing a half marathon, and that was like a goal of mine to complete that. So I finished that in June. So
That's amazing.
Now I'm trying my hardest to kind of commit to a marathon and try to figure out my training plan for that. But committing a lot of time to running a lot of miles is a lot.
Yeah, no, that's like a really good point. I feel like when people have that fear, they start to come up with excuses and really try to justify why they haven't done it yet. And you just have to go after it. Like that's the only way that you're going to find out if you would even fail or succeed. So, I mean, props to you. I couldn't even run a half marathon. So like, that's awesome. I was a dancer for so long. I feel like a lot of the times I would like shy away from certain things with dance too. I was just kind of nervous about failing and didn't want to try out like, you know, certain advanced classes, things like that. I guess that's like the most relatable story I can give, but I totally get it. Like I would just come up with excuses, put it off. Oh, I'll do it down the road. And it's never going to happen that way. So it's so important to just try it out. So I know I asked in the beginning, like, if you had any regrets, and really what I've learned from failure is that it's just a part of the journey. And the fear of regret is honestly way worse than the fear of failure when you look back at it, right?
I agree. It's more rare to look back and be like, oh, I wish I didn't do that, because I feel like every opportunity, whether negative or positive, there's always something that you can learn from and grow from. I've always tried to look at that mindset, especially with college. Like, I don't want to do anything that I regret not partaking in or not trying something out just because I was scared of failing.
Right.
Like, I feel like it's such a pivotal time in our lives to experience as much as we can experience. So I need to start changing my mindset too of I'd rather fail than like look back and regret things.
Right, because like you said, you can learn so much from failure too. Like, it sucks, it's not fun. I've failed a million times, haven't we all? But it is really, there's something to learn in it, and then you're going to end up succeeding down the road too.
Right.
When taking a risk, I feel like a lot of people also are nervous that it's not a smart risk to be taking. How do you stay cautious and evaluate whether a risk is calculated or if it's just more impulsive?
I feel like there's a lot of different ways you can look at like deciding on whether you should take a risk or not. I think having a plan going into whatever risk it is such like a pivotal point of deciding on if it's like a risk or not, and also like weighing the outcomes on if you proceed with this, what's going to happen, and if you don't, like what could happen. Even looking at what is holding you back from even taking the risk. Is it just fear of failure or like certain other things? I think having a concrete plan or like a fallback plan too, if you do fail, like what's going to be the outcome and how are you going to bounce back from that, can really help you figure out if it's something that's worth taking.
Right. Yeah. I think it's so important to have a plan. Like, of course, I love being spontaneous and just doing things like for fun. But if in your head you're really thinking like, oh, this might not be the best idea, really just listening to your intuition too is a tip that I would give. But just weighing the pros and cons of it, I think, is really smart as well.
I'm a big believer in pros and cons.
Oh yeah,
list.
Just making a pros and cons list that really.
I feel like it tells you everything. If you can't find pros and all you can write is cons, like that was partially me with. So I've done that with when I picked what college I wanted to go to, like deciding like once you're writing them, you can figure out if you can't come up with any pros or you can't come up with many cons, like it kind of gives you your answer right there.
Right. Sometimes deep down the answer. You've just got to like put it on paper and really
visualize
think about it before you like jump headfirst into something.
Right.
But, a good spontaneous decision is always fun too.
Yeah, you got to sprinkle those in.
I would also say just like seeking input from friends, family, sometimes they can have the best advice for you as well.
Yeah, I agree. I love surrounding myself with like-minded people or people who have the same goals as me, and like talking with them about what they think about certain situations or what advice they would give. And I feel like it's really helped me decide on like different aspects of my life.
Do you have like a go-to when it comes to like, I need your advice?
I feel like it depends on what category.
Yes.
Like I have one of my best friends, Emily, like we're the go-to with running. Like she was the one who made me do the half marathon, and now like we're always training together. But if it comes to like anything with life, it's my sister. Like she is 2 years older than me, and I like one of my best friends. Like she is always the one to give the best advice.
Yes.
And I have like my nursing friend group, like they're always one to give me advice on like and push me to study more and study with them. Like
really depends on the category.
Yeah, and I have a little bit of everything, which is awesome.
Yeah, I think being a girl and having an older sister is like the best when it comes to just needing like real advice like that. I'm always going to my older sister when I'm like, okay, like just tell me straight. I
Give
need
me
your
real
advice. And it's just so helpful. So I definitely say like if you're really struggling, you have a pros and cons list, it's even, you're like, what do I do? Seeking, input from others is good too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it helps give a different perspective on something. You might not have seen it from a different way, and even getting advice, you'd be like, wait, I don't like that, and then it totally gives you your answer on what you think. Like
it's like when you put on an outfit and you like already know you kind of don't like it or you like it,
right? And you're waiting for someone else to say it. Yeah,
so true. I feel like whenever I'm going about a crazy decision, I always am like YOLO. Like that's my thing. I go by a YOLO mindset. Do you have that same mindset, or just like the belief that everything happens for a reason? And has that impacted your choices at all?
Yeah, I think I've always tried to have the mindset of I am where I'm supposed to be and everything will work out the way it should work out, whether it's the way I want it to work out. I always think it's going to work out in the end. And I think trying to always have that mindset can help relieve like my stress or my worry. Like sometimes if I can't get the outcome or find out the answer right now, like I try to tell myself that stressing about it right now won't help anyways, or like might not help get me the answer. So I have definitely tried to feel more of the YOLO mindset, which might be harder.
It definitely is tough, especially if it ends up disappointing you in any way. It's definitely tough to like keep that YOLO mindset if you are having good or bad experiences. You know, just keeping a positive mindset overall. The best way I can go about that is just believing that both those good and bad situations are all just a part of my journey, and they're all contributing to what's to come in the end and what's supposed to happen. That's really like the best way I can stay on track when I'm like, oh, this is all supposed to happen, but bad things are happening. I guess that's like the best way that I personally go about it.
Right. Yeah, I would agree. And I also thinking of when bad things are happening, looking for the good in it, or looking for, or like finding something good out of it, or even just creating something good to distract you from the bad that's happening, or figuring out how to get out of the bad situation can really help.
Right. Like when I was younger and I would get sick, I'd be like, oh, this is the worst. But hey, now my mom's making me chicken noodle soup.
Right.
Like finding the good in something bad is just like a silly example, but so important, even with like the worst of the worst.
Right. You know? I think it can help in like having the small examples really helps you with reacting to the bigger situations in life of either like not getting into like your dream college. Like then you can really just change your mindset of maybe I wasn't supposed to go there. Maybe like everything does happen for a reason. Then you end up going to a different college that you love that you would have never gone to if you didn't get in somewhere. Like stuff like that. Like I really think changing your mindset for the little things helps you overcome and react positively to the bigger situations.
Yeah, that's definitely a much better example than I gave because that one's relatable, and I so agree that like applying to colleges, like, oh, I was super disappointed when I didn't get into some, and like also stressed out about just making that decision, weighing pros and cons. And now I always look back and I'm like, I am so happy that I got into UMass, chose UMass, like everything that I decided to do, even though there was some bad along the way, like it all turned out great. Right. So it's just important to like stay positive.
Yeah. And I think it's easier to look back and be like, oh, that was a great decision. And sometimes I think it's good to look back on like, I remember being so stressed out with picking for colleges, but now 3 years in looking back and be like, thank God I picked UMass. Like that was such a good decision. And when I'm in situations like currently of figuring out like what to do, like kind of reminding myself of situations I've been like this before and like seeing how good it did turn out, even if I didn't think it like that was the right way. I think it helps me keep the positive mindset that everything will happen for a reason and like it will end up working out.
Yeah, just like reflecting on those past experiences for sure.
Yeah.
So I know we've talked about your personal experiences with study abroad and how that was like a big leap of faith for you. Can you think of other specific moments where you stepped out of your comfort zone and it ended up resulting in a lot of growth for you versus failure?
Yeah, I would say in high school, I joined the track team mostly because my sister did it. So that's why I joined. But I always grew up playing soccer. So track was something really new to me where all you did was run. And looking back on that time, there was definitely a lot of failure, whether not running the race I wanted to or not performing the way I wanted to, or even like as a team. And I think that time has really taught me how to dig deep and push and even create goals and how to achieve goals. And with track, there's definitely a lot of failure. And I think in that time, I was able to figure out the why I was either like failing in that situation or why didn't I run the time that I wanted to run. And I've been able to kind of take a step back and look at like what worked in the training and what didn't, and how can I plan better and do better for the next time. And I think taking that and putting it into my life, figuring out the why something didn't work out the way I want it to work, or like why I felt like I failed in that situation, and taking like the steps back to what did work to get me there and what didn't, and adjusting from that has really helped me post high school life.
Yeah, and it takes a lot of strength to reflect back on like a poor experience and really just like admitting to what you did wrong personally. But it's so important if you even want to grow from that experience. And, you know, if you're planning on going through with it again and having a better outcome next time, you have to take that time to just think back and say what went wrong. You know, why did this outcome happen? What strategies have you specifically used that you feel work the best for you to just maintain a positive outlook and, you know, eliminate those setbacks?
I think, like I've mentioned before, a plan is huge. And even like for me, I need to visualize like what I'm going to do. And so like writing things down or creating like a to-do list or a timeline list has really helped me like stay on track and keep in mind of like my end goal. And then once I either hit those failures or like feel myself to like taking a step back, like just reviewing that list again and thinking of my end goal or the why I want that end goal has always really like helped me stay on track. Surrounding yourself with people who either like have that same goal and keep you on that track or keep like motivating you or supporting you and like that can also help you like go through the same struggles with somebody else, I think is also huge and very helpful.
Right, because doing it alone sometimes gets tough, and so having someone to keep you accountable is just like really helpful. You're both going through the same thing, you can both motivate each other, so I love that. Another big concept is like failing forward. You have to really view failure as a stepping stone and use it to your advantage in a way. Is there like any way that you've specifically been able to do that?
I really like the idea of failing forward because it looks at it as less as a negative idea and like you said, more as a stepping stone. I think it's all part of the process. And if you go into it knowing that there are going to be failures or the plan isn't going to go like exactly how you want it, I think having that room and adaptability really can make like the biggest difference.
Right. And then also just remembering failure is temporary.
Right.
Like you're not like, so many times I've failed and I like forget about those failures. You're not going to be stuck in that position forever. It's just a small setback. That's like the best way to move forward and stay positive.
Yeah. Like it doesn't make you who you are. Like everybody has their setbacks. And I think another big thing is realizing that the people around you might not notice like what you're doing. Like I don't look at people like I think they're failing today if they're not in a good, like you don't notice. Nobody knows. It's not like you have a big thing on your forehead that be like I'm a failure. Like nobody else can see it. Like you're your like I think in those like instances like you're your worst enemy because nobody else really is paying attention to you. Like you can do your own thing and kind of also like work on yourself and people might not even like notice a difference. So if you're feeling like you're failing, like you can pick yourself back up and you'll be fine and people might not even notice.
Right. Most likely they won't notice. Right. Also just celebrating the small wins. Like you might be failing along the way, but there's always some small wins in there and you really just have to focus on those. I know we said like focusing on the good, not always the bad, and finding the good in things. But yeah, really just celebrating those small wins and making that your focus.
Yeah. I think celebrating small wins definitely is a better mindset because it kind of gives you like boosts along the way and gives you like a self of like, oh, I can do that or I completed that. Like I can continue forward. And why not enjoy the small things? Like not everything's like you're not racing to like the end of life. Like celebrate what's happening.
So like you were saying with like goal setting, writing everything down, coming up with a plan, I think it's also really important to set achievable goals. A lot of people like to set big giant goals, which is great, but you can't get upset when you fail at those. Right. And so also just having a set of goals that are more achievable for you, smaller steps type of thing, like we were saying before, I feel like is the best way to eliminate that failure.
Right. I think with the achievable goals, I think also like setting yourself either like a timeline or I've always done, my mom has taught me to, when you're making a goal, make it like flexible. So like if you want to like get into working out more, instead of saying like I want to work out 4 days a week, set it to like 3 to 5 times. So if you hit the 3, you're still within your goal, but if you hit the 5, you're still within your goal. Like sometimes giving yourself that wiggle room, because not every week's going to be perfect or some days you're going to fall off, but
things happen.
If you get the minimum, like you still are at what you want, and then it becomes more of a habit and maybe you are hitting more of the 5, but not getting so down on yourself when like you don't always hit that exact number. I've noticed a big difference on making it range goals have really helped me a lot.
Yeah, I love that. Just keeping it achievable is what's going to keep you motivated.
Right.
A lot of times people view discomfort as like a negative term, but there is healthy discomfort for sure. And so how do you personally differentiate between healthy and unhealthy discomfort?
there's a difference between learning about like personal development and kind of pushing those boundaries, and taking the unhealthy look would be just like adding unnecessary stress or unnecessary like anxiety during that time. I think you have to really look at how your body's reacting or what you're feeling, growing past like your personal boundary, or maybe just adding like new things into like your day-to-day life. Like that is a healthy change, and sometimes it's dedication over motivation. Like you might not always want to do it, so some people might be like, oh, that's an unhealthy way, but I think when building habits, you do need to be like a little bit uncomfortable. But if it's to a point where you're so stressed all the time, or you're pushing away like your own personal values, I think then you really have to take a step back and being like, I don't think this is like who I want to be, or this is making me like not like what I value. So I think then that's where you like take a step back and like reevaluate.
Yeah, definitely. I would say healthy discomfort is going to result in growth. You're going to notice it versus noticing that stress. And so really just tuning into your emotions, listening to those is like the best way to decide if you should step away from something.
And I think also just giving it a little bit of time. Everything stepping out of your comfort zone is going to be uncomfortable in the beginning, but giving yourself time to really adapt or change and focus on what is your overall goal. I think giving yourself time and then realizing if that's really going to be an unhealthy or healthy way to go about it.
Right. It's like UMass. Like for me in the beginning, it was a little uncomfortable, and like I really had to give it time and adjust, and now I love it. But you know, if I didn't stick it out, who knows what I would have did. So everything's going to take time. It's going to be uncomfortable at first, but if it's bringing you a lot of stress, that's when, you know, it's not good for you.
Right. You got to take a step back.
So you've had a lot of recent fun experiences stepping out of your comfort zone, but looking ahead, what do you have in mind for, you know, continuing to explore the unknown?
I think it's a perfect time to really look at the future since it is a new year. And with a new year, a lot of people come up with New Year's resolutions goals. I saw, it might have been on TikTok or something, but I saw someone set it up as more of like a bingo sheet instead of making it like a list. So this year I did it more of a bingo sheet, so that in a way, like with bingo, you don't cross everything off, and that's okay. You can still win. And in other ways, like you're 4 out of 5 of the thing, and you're almost about to get bingo. So you try to like get that number. So I've kind of made it a bingo because I think it will help keep me motivated, and that's also so being like, oh, all I needed to do is that goal, and then I can like on a random Wednesday be like, oh, I got a bingo today. Yeah. Like my own life goal. And I think that also kind of takes away the fear of failure, because it's okay if I don't get it all. In bingo, you don't get it all. So I think setting myself up like that has really like put me in a good mindset for starting the new year. Like in it, I have run a marathon, but if I don't, it's okay. I still might be able to get a lot of other goals out of it, which, and like still look at it as a positive year instead of looking at it be like, oh, I didn't do all of those things.
Right. Yeah. You can't do everything. And so I think that's like a really cool way to be going about it. What other things aside from running a marathon are you putting on your bingo sheet? In
another one that I'm excited about is to be able to crochet something I can either wear or use.
Okay. That's awesome.
Yes. Because some of my hometown best friends are into it, and I got into it a little bit, and all I've been able to crochet are like little coasters.
I got into it a little too. I have one coaster in my room, and I'm like, okay, crochet a scarf, like come on, do something.
Yeah, that's something that I definitely want to do, because another one of mine is just to like decrease my social media usage. Like I need to delete TikTok. I've still been debating it, but I know it tells me I need to. And just kind of like entertain myself in other ways that's not my phone. So some of my goals were to like read more. I want to read 12 books this year, and I was like, I think one book a month like can happen.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I think other ways, like some goals help me kind of achieve my other ones. So I really hope I'm going to be able to crochet something, because I love spending my time doing that. And it also does help me get off my phone, which is another goal of mine.
Yeah, that's so funny. You're like reading my like New Year's resolutions list right now. Like I literally put crochet, read, like less phone time. I'm currently on a digital detox right now.
Oh, I love that.
No social media. But actually a year ago I did a digital detox at the time, and I got rid of TikTok, and I never got it back since then. Honestly, best thing I could have ever did, because it's just crazy scrolling on there, but everything else I'm still using. So just taking some time away from that now, and just like what you can achieve in that time without having your phone on all the time is like crazy. Like that's what I learned from that. So that's definitely something I put down. Traveling, of course, like I'm heading abroad. So many goals with traveling. I know. Oh my God. Yeah, that's a big way I'm going to step out of my comfort zone this year. And then I guess just like looking really far ahead beyond this new year, just life after college. Like that's going to be the next big step out of my comfort zone for sure.
That's definitely on my my list
Yeah.
this year. It's just like explore my career options. Like for me, obviously once I graduate, I will sit for my boards and become an RN, like a registered nurse. But nobody really talks about how many career options there are within nursing. Like I could do so many things. So this year I really want to figure out like what specialty I want to do or where I even want to be. And so that's a really big one that I need to like figure out because college is ending sooner than I'd like to admit.
Oh, it's flying by. So to end off, we're going to give some advice. What advice would you personally give to people who really struggle to explore life beyond their comfort?
Well, I've always heard this quote that it's an easy life is hard and a hard life is easy. And I really think it just highlights on you need to endure the hardships and challenges and really like push yourself to live a fulfilling life. And I think when looking at this quote, you can really see that an easy life is obviously more ideal, and avoiding all the challenges and stuff makes like your life harder in the long run. And I really think to be growing constantly, like you need to endure the challenges as you go, and you will like an easy life is definitely more fulfilling, I would say.
Yeah, I think it's so important just to live a fulfilling life. You want to look back and be like, wow, like I did all that, like, and just be proud of like where you've come, everything you've achieved. So I love that quote. I would say also just approaching discomfort with curiosity, like really find out what excites you. Like we were saying, like if it's bringing you stress, like step away from it, but be curious and just like find the excitement in it, I would say.
I think looking at it as like opportunities for growth and new experiences, like life can be so mundane. So stepping outside of your comfort zone can really bring you like exciting things and look at it as like new cool opportunities instead of something that's like daunting.
Yeah. So like as a word of advice, just keeping a growth mindset is like, that's just the best mindset to have in these situations.
The potential rewards with like stepping outside of your comfort zone. Like there are so many cool things and like so many amazing ththings that you can look at with stepping outside of your comfort zone. So if you look at it as if like you're in a box and all you're doing, it's all you know, like I feel like you're missing out on so many things. And just looking outside of like, especially on social media, everybody sees all these cool things. Like obviously social media, a lot of it is fake, but some of the things like you do have to take risks and do certain things. And I think that being a motivation and looking at all the potential new rewards and opportunities that can come from it can really be a good motivation for people to really step outside of their comfort zone.
Right. Like you can't go on social media, look at it and be like, oh, like I wish I could do that. Like you got to just go for it.
Like you can change. Obviously not everyone can do what everyone else is posting, but like there's definitely things that you can change about your own life to make you feel more fulfilled and make you feel like you're living a cool life too.
Yeah, exactly. And just like seeing the reward at the end of it all is just like something to keep you excited and keep you curious, like I was saying too.
Yeah.
This was awesome. This like got me excited about going abroad and just like the new year. I'm excited to try out some new fun things and just step out of my comfort zone even more than I have. Thank you so much. This was so much fun.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, guys. Just keep listening, keep watching. Give Katie some love. She's awesome. But thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.